Okay, good morning. Thank you for joining us for today's coffee talk. My name is Sean O'Brien, president of QuickRate, and as always, I'm pleased to be joined by Steve Huntington. Steve, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming to another one of our Friday morning talks. My name is Steve Huntington. I'm the director of analytics here, and I've spent my entire career working with community financial institutions around the country in a number of ways, and spent more than half of that career now here with Sean at QuickRate.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Steve. Oops, let's see, we got to. Oh, good morning. Good morning. Uh, just a reminder, a couple things. One, you will receive a copy of the slides today and a link to the recording in an email that will likely find its way to you late Monday afternoon or first thing in the Tuesday morning. If you want to communicate or ask questions throughout today's presentation, certainly use the chat feature or the Q&A box, and we will monitor those and take them, or I'll interrupt to ask the question in the midst of the conversation, or we'll certainly take those at the end. So certainly,
Please interrupt us. We're ready. We're ready and willing to be interrupted at any given time. We're
exactly.
prepared.
We are ready and prepared. Okay, so again, one, we want to thank you for continuing to show up for coffee talks. We continually try to find topics that we hope you find are relevant and helpful, and we'll continue to do so. But in that vein, certainly, as we kind of wind down and start to enter the fourth quarter of this year, please let us know if there's any topics that you'd like us to either refresh on or revisit, or just new topics that you might want us to discuss on future coffee talks. We'd certainly welcome those. Okay. As always, we'll start with a few polling questions, just 3 today, pretty straightforward. Certainly welcome your participation, and these will be included in the email that we send out next week. But as always, just trying to get a sense of where you think things are in your own neighborhood. And so the first question is, what's your current assessment of your credit environment and borrowers in your backyard? So strengthening, weakening, or stable? Give this another 10 or 15 seconds. Thank you very much. Let me share these results. So 63% of you find them stable, 30% weakening, and 7% strengthening. So thank you for.
I was right on target with that one, Sean. I wrote down 60, 30, 10 just before the call started. Look at that.
It's really good. All right. Second question, try it again. Whoops.
They say they about a broken clock, Sean.
Hey, still better than zero.
That's right.
Past due loans. Are you experiencing any increase in your past due loans? A simple yes or no here. Okay. Thank you as well. Again, we'll share these. 60% of you are seeing an increase in your past dues. 40% of you are not. And now to the final question, just kind of going up the food chain here a little bit. Did you charge off any loans this quarter? Again, just a simple yes or no response. You participating again. This one, 88% of you did charge off a loan this quarter. 12% of you did not. So again, we'll incorporate these results into our email next week, but thank you for participating in those polling questions. All right. As per usual, we start these with just a reminder. We are in constant search of improvements and enhancements to the tool. We always remind you that these are optional. We don't ever change the CECL solver, but we are always interested in if there's any additional insights, any user efficiencies, responses to customers asking for changes. We continually try to research those and incorporate those that we think make sense both from better user experience or more insights. So we're going to touch on a couple of those today, but let me just look here in the chat, just a couple of comments before we get going. Thank you, Brian, for incorporating recent NCUA exam. Barely touched on CECL based on prior feedback shared during the calls. Anticipated a rigorous review of the tool, but didn't get that. So again, thank you for sharing that. And again, you can all view Brian's comments in the chat.
Yeah, your examiner apparently woke up on the right side of the bed that morning. That's fantastic.
Well, I mean, I think it does bring up an interesting point, right? I think for sure we have seen on the bank side, and I suspect we'll see on the credit union side, right, the hiring freezes that occurred for both the NCUA and the OCC and the FDIC resulted in, them terminating any, recent hire offer letters or people who were still on a probationary status. And I know on the bank side, most of the new examiners come in on a 6-month or a 1-year probationary period, and all those people were let go as part of the Doge efforts. It's a real question how thorough, how deep, how timely exams might be over the next year or two. I know again, I can only speak from my own personal experiences, but our OCC exam team for the bank where I'm a director, they're scheduled to come in April, and our EIC has already pretty much said that there's probably no way that timeline will be met. So we may be experiencing a little bit different exam environment here over the next year or two. So just something to monitor. And Brian just added in the chat, they're using independent contractors to supplement staff. Must hit a different budget line. So yeah, I don't know, but I do think I'm not sure again how to characterize it, but I think it's going to be a little bit different environment here over the next 12 to 18 months. Okay.
But I know it can be frustrating when you spent so much time prepping with such a great tool like the CECL solver and ready for all those hard questions, and then they just kind of It's like when you're ready for the final and then they tell you it's going to be open note after you walk in. You're like,
yeah, exactly. Crickets. All right, Steve. So I'm going to let you jump in here now and just talk about anything where you want to go here before I go to the unfunded.
I think we're just going to dive right in. We got, we've hinted a couple times at a coming enhancement to a simplified, not that the existing methodology for unfunded commitment reserves is that overly complex, but we've been listening carefully to not only our customers, of course, but also to auditors and examiners and our users' experience with them since before CECL was the law of the land, and certainly over that first exam cycle and now our second exam cycle that we're seeing. And we always anticipated that the tools would continue to evolve based upon changing expectations, right? We all came into CECL with the expectation from stated expectation from the NCUA that they were looking for a good faith effort in this first round of exams for complying with CECL, calculating an appropriate ACL under the CECL methodology. And we've done that. And now the second round of exams, we are seeing them sharpen the point to an extent. Not everyone consistently, but certainly as the examiners have gotten more educated and knowledgeable about different methodologies and about how credit unions around the country are implementing those different methodologies, they're going to have better understanding and more expectation of preferences of the way what they like to see, what they don't like to see. And we always knew we'd be continuing to, it would be a living and breathing product for a long time to come. And it has been. What we didn't anticipate was that one of the improvements that we'd be making would be removing complexity from the tool. We designed it to be as straightforward as we could, given the guidance that we had at the time. And as we all know, when it comes to unfunded commitments specifically, it's a relatively small piece of the pie, and therefore it was not given a whole lot of attention by the, relatively speaking, by the accountants, FASB, or by the regulators when CECL first came out. And we thought, had an expectation that at some point we might have to increase the complexity of this part of the analysis. But what we found is exactly the opposite. Our existing methodology, it has some conceptual apples to oranges going on. That was a result of the guidance that we had initially when building the tool. For example, the funded loan portfolio, the whole idea of CECL was we're no longer thinking of things in 1 year chunks. We're thinking of losses over the remaining lives of the assets. So we wanted to visualize everything and do our calculations over the remaining lives and not be thinking about this year or next year. But when it came to the unfunded commitments, one of the critical assumptions with very little industry assistance, one of the critical assumptions is things like estimated probability of funding. And the guidance that we got, what little there was of it, or the best that's out there, is coming from, the notes and the instructions from the NCUA in the Form 5300 regulatory capital calculations and everything else that was sort of dated to begin with, that they calculated estimated probability of funding on, like, within, what percentage do you think might be funded within, let's say, a year. And so we started thinking about unfunded commitments using annual probability of fundings, and then thinking about the remaining commitment, the weighted average remaining commitment, and then taking our lifetime loss rates from the funded loan portfolio and sort of converting them into annual chunks, and then bringing it back, reconverting it sort of to an expected lifetime loss rate. So a couple conversions and apples to oranges in there that has caused, some confusions and inefficiencies in the tool, which has led some examiners and auditors to ask for some more detailed explanations of what we're doing here. And so that led us to think a little bit more about it and offer an alternative. So when I say an alternative, like everything else we've ever added to the tool, it is an optional, additional alternative methodology. The default methodology will still be exactly what you're using today. If you're comfortable with it, if it's working for you, if you're not getting, if it's not an uphill battle to defend it and discuss it with your auditors and examiners, you're good to go. You don't need to worry about it. If you prefer this new methodology that I'm about to kind of walk you through, or you found some friction with your examiners that this might relieve, then that's why we're offering this as an alternative methodology. Under this alternative methodology, the first half is still the same. We're still pulling total unfunded commitments from the call reports. We're still backing out unconditionally cancelable amounts, getting a net unfunded commitment that we have to deal with from a reserve CECL perspective. Next slide. Where it differs is, once we've calculated the net unfunded commitment in dollars, we're still applying a probability or likelihood of funding, but instead of trying to think about it over in maybe a 1 year chunk, it's just simply lifetime probability of funding. What is the percentage of that total balance of unfunded commitments do you expect to get funded, period, or are likely to be funded over a reasonable period of time? And once you have that single probability of funding, then we do an additional calculation, one that is inherent in the default method, but explicit here in the simplified method, because I think it makes it a little bit more straightforward. We simply calculate, well, what is a total balance of loans that we expect to potentially end up with as a result of these unfunded commitment balances? So how much actual funded loan balance do we anticipate to end up resulting with eventually? And that amount there is then, and then once you have an estimated total funded amount, or additional loans from the unfunded commitments, we simply apply a lifetime expected loss rate coming directly from the calculations on the funded portfolio. So instead of, again, trying to convert that to years and then back to lifetime, we stick right with we just take the expected loss rate from your funded loans and apply it apples to apples to the estimated total loans funded from the unfunded, from the commitments right there. Now, there's of course, it's never quite that simple. As we know, as we've talked about, one of the inherent challenges in the unfunded commitment section is that the buckets are not the same as the buckets for the funded loan portfolio. You only have 6 buckets for unfunded commitments on the call reports, right? Total commercial loans is 1 bucket, and then revolving 1 to 4 family, credit card, share draft, overdraft, and other non-commercial loans lines, which is a plethora, a smorgasbord of of loan types going into that catch-all bucket. I guess the total commercial was kind of catch-all these days too. So you have 2 catch-all buckets, which means that we're still taking the lifetime loss rate from the funded portfolio and having to do an average of maybe 2 or 3 of those buckets to fit it into, the unfunded bucket. So that math is something we've gone over in the past. We have a video clip right in our video resource library that explains how we're doing that math, and some of it is in the footnotes on this page as well. So if you have questions about that, please reach out. But this is just a more intuitively, conceptually straightforward, less different chunks kind of methodology. You're simply applying a universal probability of funding to that loan type, estimating how many loans you might actually get from the unfunded amount, and then applying your lifetime loss rate from the funded portfolio to it with no other adjustments, and then calculating a CECL, a reserve amount for the unfunded. Now, depending upon what assumptions you made in the default method, if you're investigating or wanting to use a simplified method, it may end up with a higher, well, it will end up with a higher or lower reserve amount that's required under this methodology. And typically, we're seeing higher amounts required for the reserve for unfunded commitments under the simplified method. Now, that's not all bad, because what that means is you're front loading your ultimate reserve a little bit more on the on the front end. Meaning, if you have a higher reserve on the unfunded commitments, when some of those ultimately become loans, you're going to have a transfer of that reserve from the unfunded commitment reserve, which will decrease to the loan loss reserve for the funded portfolio. So you'll have a bit of transitioning going on the income statement side, right, and the provision expenses, now that there's multiple provision expenses. So it doesn't end up with an ultimately higher amount of total universal reserve. It's just more front loaded. So you might consider it to be on average, a slightly more conservative methodology. And we're seeing positive feedback from the examiners that actually care about this or this level of detail. We're finding that we're seeing more pressure, or at least less friction in this part of the discussions when you're being a little more conservative and front loading the unfunded reserve a little bit more. I don't want to say aggressively, or I'd say conservatively, and then just simply transferring a larger chunk to the loan reserve if and when they get funded. Sean?
Whoops. Yeah. I think that's the key, right? We're trying to simplify this. Again, I think we've seen an evolution with the unfundeds, where there was really very little focus coming out of the gate when we moved to CECL and the ACL. Increasingly, we see a little bit more gradual focus on it. I think that focus has resulted in seeing institutions start to fund it. I think that's probably the life cycle we're on, right? When we first started with the ACL and CECL, we talked about an evolution of how this would play out. I think this is, kind of coming to life with the unfunded. So again, I think we wanted to make sure you had all the tools and, some variations or just ways you could handle it from what we had originally proposed, because when we first built the tool, there was absolutely no prescription on how credit union should handle this. And so we, determined and Steve built what we thought was our best approach to it. But I think over time we've seen and heard from you and from others, and just felt like this was an appropriate time to provide a little bit of optionality to our users on how they treated this. And again, you can kind of see the percentage of people reporting zero, since 23 coming down. Again, it's gradual, but I think there is a trend in place. Again, I think it'll move a little bit, pretty slowly. But I think if we look to the bank side of the world, the percentage of banks reporting zero is almost a third now, right? It's come down dramatically. I don't know if it'll move as fast on the credit union side, but again, it's a trend we're seeing. So we want to be prepared for it. Steve?
Yeah, and that's why I said for those examiners that actually care about this part of it, because a majority of credit unions in the country that have balances in unfunded commitments are still reporting or calculating, at least on their reserve. At least on their call report, no explicit reserve for that unfunded commitment on the liability side of the balance sheet, which is a new line item, or new-ish, in conjunction with CECL line item on the actual call report on the 5300. So you're muted. There you go.
Yep. Yeah, I think we just want to make sure, it's a trend we're seeing. We want to give you the flexibility. Hopefully you'll be able to continue to report as you've been doing. And for any of you that may be a zero amount, but we feel like it's, certainly something we just want to keep you aware of what's happening elsewhere. Okay. All right. Some coming soon. New attractions.
Yes. So
Take it away.
this I'm going to do a little bit of live demo on our super secret internal version of our site, because this will be available to you throughout in different chunks throughout the fourth quarter here. And it's something we've offered to our on the commercial bank side for a long time, but hadn't really built out completely for credit unions. But it's something we're starting to offer now, is the ability to build custom peer groups. So up to this point, you have been limited by the 6 peer groups that the NCUA in their infinite wisdom has created for you. There's peer groups 1 through 6, right? Under 2 million, 2 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 500, and over $500 million in assets. And we've done our best to allow you to be able to slice and dice those asset buckets by geography, right? Either by the region. There was East, West, and South are the 3 regions that the NCUA reorganized themselves around a handful of years ago. So you're able to just choose your peer group, your asset size peer group, and a region, or even a state. So you could say, I want all the peer group for 50 to $100 million credit unions in the state of California. So you could limit it by state or by region, but we were still ultimately limited by those 6, and no other characteristics or filters could be used in creating those peer groups from a CECL perspective. What we're offering now, or will be offering, is the ability to create completely custom peer groups using any filters, any financial filters or combination of filters that you so desire. So let me whet everyone's appetite a little bit here. Let me share my screen. Hold on a second. All right. I think I opened. Yeah. So here's a login page. Again, here's our guinea pig for today. And there'll be a new button up here called Custom Peer Groups. When I click on it, this is where I create a custom peer group. I created a couple sample ones just to play around with. For example, all the credit unions in the state of California that are between $100 and $200 million in assets. There's 29 of them. Or I want all the credit unions that are, ones that I know by name. So I handpick a handpicked list of 5 or 10 credit unions that are around my neck of the woods in Raleigh. Or I want to use other financial filters and say, I'm doing an analysis where I want to see what credit unions have a high percentage of their portfolio in credit card loans. So this is a list of the a peer group of credit unions that have over 10% of their loan portfolio in credit cards. And so if I were to create one from scratch, I'll click on create a new credit union. I can search by name. So if I have a list of 10 credit unions that are around my market that board recognizes that I want to compare myself to those ones individually, I can search, find those credit unions and add them manually to the list down here. Or I can say, well, just start by showing me all the ones in my city or my state, and then I'll pick out the ones that I want. So if I said, let's say I want, just show me all the ones in Alabama, and say, all right, 90 credit unions in Alabama. And here are the, 5 ones that I want. So I can hand pick them and then save it as a peer group, give it a name. Or I can, instead of choosing a geography, I might say that I want, let's say, if I start typing in a field, any field in our database, so hundreds and hundreds or thousands of fields, and I find, here, hold on, let me scroll a little bit. Credit card loans, percent composition is greater than 7%. Add filter, search. Now this is our internal site, so all these types of searches tend to lag and be a little bit slower.
And I think you chose the whole country, so it's going through a lot of them.
I did. I did. And I backed out of state, so I might have shot myself. I'm just gonna cancel that one out. Hold on, let me refresh the page. But you can pick a specific filter, or you can pick multiple filters. For example, if I want, assets between 100 million and 250 million, and I want, let's say, net charge-off ratio of greater than 10 basis points. All right. That didn't get anybody. So the point, probably should have had a couple good examples coming in here, as opposed to just, actually I did, I had them here. So that's the idea, is you can use any financial filters or combination of filters that you want to build a specific peer group, and choose all the banks that meet those criteria, or just a handful of them. So for example, here, if I go to edit, once I build the peer group, I give it a custom name, it shows up here in my list. You can create as many custom peer groups as you want to, and they'll all be saved here and be able to be used throughout the platform as we add more tools for credit unions here on Quick Analytics. You'll be able to pull up that credit union for any of those tools that we add. So for example, if I click on the California, this is what I gave it a name, California 100 to 200 million. And I chose the state of California, and then that, and so there's the 29 institutions. You can see they're all California. They're all 100 to $250 million in assets. Or if I chose the 10 credit card composition. The nice thing also about the results list is it shows you the metrics that you were searching by, so you could kind of double check that it's what you expected. Here are all credit unions that have over 10%, and so we have those as well with credit cards. So if I head back to, now let me head back to CECLSolver. So as of now, you would have the option to choose NCUA peer group 6. For these guys, they're over 500 million. So their default peer group is going to be the national or the regional or the state limitation of NCUA peer group 6. But now you'll be able to click on custom and choose any of the custom peer groups that we chose here. So if I go to a state-based peer group and I head to the public peer data, these are loss rates for California peer groups, NCUA peer group 6. As soon as I toggle over to the custom, take about a few seconds, and that just recalculated These are now all going all the way back in time, loss rates for California California credit unions between 100 and 200 million or whatever custom peer group. So once you change the peer group, all the data that's peer related updates dynamically and on the fly. If I head back to the main page here, again, this is all coming soon. It's not available. It's not on here yet today, but those same custom peer groups will be available for, let's say if I go to just my credit union, right? Our kind of financial summary page that we have for each credit union in the country, where you can change your dates and you can change your durations and you can export kind of a financial overview. You can also choose, there's your state peer groups, your regional, your national, and your custom peer group. So if I click on a different custom peer group, it will recalculate what the peer medians were for all these data points and show you your percentile rank currently compared to that that now custom or soon to be customizable peer group. So that's neat. Heading back to the main page here, it'll also be an option in the credit unions at a glance. I don't know, I know some of you use this tool where you want to pull up just, kind of quickly, visually, all the credit unions in your neck of the woods in your state, and then see some kind of financial summary information. Here, you'll be able to also choose that custom peer group and then have those bank or credit unions in your custom peer group show on the list right here and get similar information for them there as well. So that's kind of our coming soon functionality for custom peer groups. Obviously, when we first release it, it will be immediately available for the CECLSolver tool, because that's why the majority of you are here on the call today. But we'll be adding it to the other functionality we have, the financial overview functionality and the credit unions at a glance functionality, relatively soon afterwards. Sean?
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Again, we're just feel like it's, we're big believers in peer groups, kind of comparing yourself to other credit unions who you, we think is valuable. So we're excited to introduce this and make it available to you as well. In kind of a similar vein, right? Just trying to give you more insights. Steve continues to, calculate and prepare some of the proprietary information we have and give you some updates for Q3. So I'll let him talk about what we've been able to gather and what he's seeing.
Yeah, we continue coming back to the internal database that we have of data from all of our credit union users of the CECLSolver tool to provide the proprietary trends that you pretty much can't get anywhere else when it comes to looking at trends in WARMs by loan segment and what direction Q factors are going amongst your credit union peers, and also reserve levels, overall reserve levels for the collectively assessed portfolios, the general reserve, so to speak, for at the segment level for you and your peers. The database obviously keeps growing because you guys keep creating scenarios. Appreciate that. And at this point, over 525 unique different credit unions utilizing the CECLSolver tool in 48 states. We're coming for you, Alaska. Institutions running the gamut from under $10 million in assets to over $9 billion, averaging $300 to $400 million in assets, but certainly all over the asset spectrum. 9,500 scenarios run, and now over 200,000. We hit that 200,000 mark of segment level scenarios and data points for WARMs and Q factors and reserve levels. So it's becoming more and more robust by the day. I know a lot of you actively use this and you're looking for it even before you file the call reports, while you're doing scenarios, like for example, building scenarios and calculating reserves in October for the October call reports. And there's always a lag in the available data. There's nothing we can do about the lag in call report data for obvious reasons, but we've been trying to aggregate all of this internal data and present you with, quarterly trends in a really in a live kind of environment, so that as soon as we get all that data in, you'll be able to use it for qualitative factor adjustment, defense, and justifications and everything else sooner and sooner in the process. So we went ahead and compiled the third quarter data. It's obviously we're missing the last couple of days of September, so we'll do a little true up in a couple of weeks. But we already have the third quarter data available as of this morning live on our site. So for all of you who are looking for those third quarter trends for all the scenarios that our users have built for the first 85, 86 days of a 90-day quarter, they're already live and available on the site for you to use. So you can see those trends today, and the Excel export is also available as of today too. I know some of you like to get that data in Excel and utilize it, so it's there also. Funny, just looking at the screenshot today and thinking about it for the first time, there's always some great trends that you can see with this data, you know, whether it comes to justifying your own particular reserve level or direction of reserve level for a segment of your portfolio compared to your peers, or just seeing what's going on in the regulatory and the exam environment, right? When I clicked on for this screenshot, I clicked on, you know, just mortgages, first lien, 1 to 4 family mortgages, and just what you see here on the screen, the chart on the right shows the median values, 50th percentile or median values. So half of our users have a higher collective reserve or general reserve, and half our users have a lower one. That's the green line. We know that reserves on the whole for mortgage loans have continued to slightly consistently trickle down since CECL implementation, where they all spiked, right? Nothing happened from an asset quality standpoint in 2022 to require a higher reserve, but the methodology change led to a higher reserve amongst the majority of credit unions. And since then, we've all continued to grow into that reserve as an industry, right? Having very little additional provision while still having our portfolios grow significantly over those couple of years. And so we've seen reserve levels trickle down at the median, but at the 25th percentile, reserve levels have not changed very much. At the median, they've come down a little bit, but look at the 75th percentile. It's come down significantly for collective reserves on mortgage loans over the last 2 years. That's just the last 9 quarters. So it's mid 2023 to mid 2025. And that suggests that even just a couple of years ago, there was a pretty wide disparity in reserve levels that examiners were allowing, assumedly, for credit unions to have. And it's really, that range is narrowed down significantly. So the difference between having a below average and above average reserve on mortgage loans is a much smaller difference than it was even 2 years ago, which is suggests, you know, uniformity in the process, suggests maybe some less differences from examiner to examiner within the NCUA. There's lots of conversations you could have as to why that might be the case, but the data suggests that it is indeed the case. Sean, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I think that's exactly it. I think you know, we've kind of seen reserves kind of moderate, but I think kind of illustrates why we think this information can be helpful, right? You can see trends that are occurring. You can see when you start to look at 75th or 25th percentiles, what's happening, you know, on the outskirts, if you will. Particularly if you're going to see trouble, it's going to show up in, you know, the upper percentiles for past dues and et cetera. And right, so it's just it's a good way of seeing if things are changing, right? I think we never can pinpoint when things are happening exactly, but again, if we're going to have credit problems, we're going to see those numbers show up in the higher percentiles of past dues and charge-offs for credit unions. You know, checking this out every quarter and seeing if there's any change or, you know, significant change at those levels, you know, is again, it's more information, right? It can be directionally helpful and just kind of set, you know, give you some level sets for where things are occurring. So again, we love this kind of data. I think it's, you know, it's useful to check out, and it's, you know, again, we always kind of start at the median, but I think looking at some of the other percentiles has tremendous value as well.
And I'm like, next slide is just a reminder that Excel file. I know everyone is requesting the Excel file at the same time that the data is available on the interactive site, so that you can save it, keep it in a folder with stuff for the quarter and everything else. And that Excel file has also already been updated for the third quarter. At some point mid-October, I will be updating this data just to account for the few days of September that we missed, because I'm very picky about that kind of stuff. But it's not going to markedly, appreciably change any of these numbers. I would expect you'll see maybe a 1 basis point, if anything, or 2. It's not going to be a huge difference. So it's certainly very usable at this point in time. But that Excel file has all the comprehensive data from the that we have on the interactive site. And there's a bunch of hidden columns as well from previous dates. If you want to find data going all the way back, 3 years or so, and not just the last 5 quarters, you certainly can unhide those columns and pull all that data and use it as you see fit. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, another example of where we're trying to continue to bring some insights and products is what Steve's gonna talk to, this interactive industry research. We're excited about to be able to share with you. Again, I think it'll give you some immediate access to information that's available and contained in the data that we have, and I think you'll find the user interface is presented in a way that, again, makes it very easy to navigate, and hopefully something you'll return to and use on an ongoing basis. So Steve, you want to take it away?
Yeah, and again, this is something that we have available on the for our commercial bank customers, but we haven't really built out completely for credit unions at this point yet. How much of the industry research and additional financial analyses will just be offered to everybody as part of your subscription, and how much might be part of a new product or a new tool with a different subscription to more advanced analytics? We're still working all that out, but we wanted to give you guys a preview of what's going to be available in some way, shape, or form moving forward. And part of it is industry research, and part of it is in additional interactive financial analyses and pages for on the My Credit Union page. But starting with the industry research, this is a really great way to visualize data for your peers over time, as opposed to just going to the CECLSolver tool and going to the peer data tab and having one large table there that has very little flexibility and is only related to credit data and very specific credit data. This is infinitely more comprehensive and interactive and advanced of a way of navigating that type of data on your industry. So one of the first tab that we'll have in the industry research is credit analysis, where you'll be able to. This is just a screenshot right now of what we have available for with bank call report data. So you'll notice the segments don't match what you have on your 5300s, but other than that, it's the exact same concept, where you can pull up any loan type and any metric for that loan type, delinquent, non-accrual, charged off, recovery, net charge off, etc. And then chart it over time, over any period of time you want, whether it's 8 quarters, 12 quarters, 15 years, and then plot one or multiple peer groups on the same visual chart, and then also add in individual credit unions like your credit union as well. So you could say, and of course, this would be somewhere where the custom peer groups would be hugely helpful, where you say, I want to see all the credit unions in California that have high used auto percentages in their loan portfolio, that have asset quality issues or don't have any asset quality issues. Create that peer group, create a couple other peer groups of different asset sizes, and then pull up a metric, whether it's a loan metric or any other performance metric over time. You can pull up you can also overlay economic trends as well. So this is a great tool for advanced credit analysis when it comes to justifying qualitative factor adjustments in CECL, or even outside the scope of CECL completely, just with your credit officers and other credit analyses that you do, absolute trends and relative trends versus different peer groups and economic trends over time. So that's the credit analysis. We'll go very quickly over. I don't need to get too deep into the waters about methodology, but we'll utilize a couple different methodologies here. When we look at credit analysis, we like to use weighted average methodologies a lot because the vast majority of credit unions are not going to have any charge-offs at any given point in time for a particular segment of the portfolio. So if you're looking at median net charge-offs on one loan segment over a very, during a healthy part of a credit cycle, your median value is going to be a heck of a lot of zeros. And so when we're looking at credit trends, one helpful way to see those trends is to calculate weighted averages instead of percentile ranks and median values. So there's a methodology here that we'll get into in the future and show in more detail when this gets closer to fruition. But that's how we'll be managing some of the credit trends using weighted average methodologies, which is can be really helpful. Next slide. I've already alluded to this, so you can read this on your own. Pros and cons of using a weighted average methodology versus a percentile rank and a median type methodology for all the analytics dorks out there like me. Next slide is our new, so the performance analysis will be another way where you can search for any field in our database, any margin fields, yields and cost fields, asset quality fields, percent composition fields, fee income, overhead expense fields, anything you can imagine that's data that comes off of our 5300s and can be analyzed. We're analyzing it now. And you'll be able to choose multiple peer groups, or you'll be able to choose 2 different percentiles. So let's say, kind of like we were talking about before, use with the CECLSolver into our internal data from the CECLSolver users, you can kind of plot a 25th and 75th percentile for a metric, just to kind of see whether you're kind of in the range of normality, if you will, for that metric compared to your peers. You'd be able to do the same thing here with any performance metric that you can dream up, pretty much, for one peer group or multiple peer groups, and you can overlay your own individual credit union's experience next to the peer groups over time, go back in time 15 years, overlay the economic data. A really, really intuitive, powerful, interactive, visual, that's enough commas or hyphens in there, I think, analytical tool for credit unions. So we're looking forward to finishing developing this and in some way, shape, or form, making it available to credit union customers. So those of you who have a particular interest in this type of data, we want to hear from you. Not just for tweaking this first offering, but for helping us develop which offerings we're going to come out with next, where we want to spend our time helping credit unions. So please don't be shy. If you want to just shoot us a note at some point, or if you'd like to have a call and talk about where you're already getting data like this and how it could be better, we would love to have any of those kind of conversations with you, and I will talk your ear off if you want me to about it. And last but not least, I think I wanted very briefly, you can scroll through that. Yeah, so very briefly, I want to share my screen for 1 second.
Yeah, and Steve, while you're doing that, we did have a question come through on the chat to talk about the look back multiplier. So if you could explain that, how it works.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the best spot to do that, and I have a bunch of different things open here. Hold on. I think we have a good tab for that in the knowledge base, which I might open up here. Yeah, let me show that on, I'm in our internal site, but that's okay. All right, good question. Let me do that real quick and then show you some other preview to whet y'all's appetite. All right, so we're back on just the overview, the login page for the CECLSolver. And if I click on the knowledge base here, it's going to open up a new tab. And in that knowledge base, in the audit functions, there is an Excel file called the this historical lifetime loss rate methodology sample. When I click on that, it kind of shows the math behind the lifetime, the multiplier, the lifetime look back multiplier. And the way that multiplier works is if you have a discrepancy, I don't think I need to it up the whole time while I'm doing that. If you have a discrepancy between your warm period, the duration of your warm, and the duration of your look back period, what CECL requires of us is that we estimate losses over the remaining life of the asset. So over the warm, right? The warm is the period, the duration of the warm is the period that we are estimating losses for CECL. However, we only get data in quarterly chunks. So if you have, let me just, here, let me pull up some real data here. It's always weird when I'm looking at totally random data. So I'll pull up some. All right, so if you have a warm of 6.27 years for your mortgage loans, right? You've done the calculations at the loan level and you realize that on average, the remaining life of your existing mortgage loans is 6.27 years. How do we calculate historical losses over a 6.27 year period? Well, we only get data in quarterly chunks. So the best we could do would be to gather 6.25 years of quarterly data, right? So our look back period by default is going to be the closest number of quarters to, so pretty much, rounding all your warms to the closest 0.25 years, because those are the chunks that we have of data. So when I go to the historical analysis, I see for our mortgage loans, we have a highlighted 6.25 years worth of losses. That's the look back period that we have. But our warm is 6.27 years. So after we aggregate all of our losses and calculate our historical lifetime look back loss of whatever it is over 6.25 years, we need to make it appropriate for a 6.27 year warm. Very slight difference, but sometimes not so slight. So we have to apply a multiplier. So we'll take that, we'll calculate it over the 6.25 years, and then our multiplier will be 6.27 over 6.25. So like, 1.001 or something like that. And that's our multiplier to make a 6.25 year period of losses appropriate for a 6.27 year warm. So that's what the multiplier is conceptually. And you can see most of these multipliers here are very close to 1 because they're just, well, we have a warm of 1.33 years for credit cards, but we have a look back period of what's the closest of 1.25. So we have 1.13% losses over 1.25 years. What is that going to be over 1.33 years? We're going to multiply it by 1.06, which is 1.33 over 1.25, and you end up with a 1.21 lifetime loss rate. So this is the loss rate over the certain number of quarters that we have data for your look back, and this is modified to be appropriate for a unrounded exact warm. Now that's the way it is for most of you. For those of you who customize your look back period, if you say, I know I only have a 1.33 year warm for credit card loans, but I want to take into account much longer historical period of time in my calculations. I want to take into account losses from the last 5 years and come in here and say, I want my look back period to go back to the beginning of 2020. So this is 5 years, 5.5 years worth of losses. I have a look back period that goes all the way back to here, but I still only have a warm of 1.33 years. So while I've aggregated, totally, I've had 4.25% losses over 5.5 years. What is that over 1.33 years? Because this is what matters. Well, I take the 4.25% aggregate 5-year losses, multiply it by 0.24, which is, again, 1.33 over 5.5, and I get that. So I realize I said the same thing a couple different ways, but that's the concept of the multiplier. The math is also shown in that Excel file I showed you, and we have a great video resource right here called Lifetime Look Back Multiplier Discussion. So if you're on the historical tab and you click on this helpful hint, it's going to open up a new tab here with a discussion, a more detailed discussion of what that was, where we did it at some point in the past in the video. So hopefully that helps. All right, so now while I have your attention, one thing, oh, go ahead. Was there something else, John?
No, Eddie, who had submitted the question, thanked us. So,
oh, awesome. So this is currently what the login page for commercial banks looks like to Quick Analytics. And right now you guys have the CECLSolver and you have a couple of the other tools. But when I click on my bank here, for credit unions right now, you just have that financial overview, right? It looks like this. You have a map with your branches, and you have a single table with a financial overview versus your peer group that you can export in any way, shape, or form you desire. What we are working on is developing a new product for credit unions that is massively expanded from this interactive financials. So for example, if you want to click on your income statement, you could come here and you could get some summary charts that are income statement related, and you can get a full-blown income statement with different tons of different metrics over time for your credit union, and all compared to your peers in the same way. We have a ton of different visualizations for relative financial performance. This one is called a performance matrix or a heat map. Takes all of your metrics that are either that kind of are all gradable, higher is better or lower is better, and plots them on a spectrum of good to bad compared to your chosen peer group over time. So you get a kind of a single page visual snapshot of your performance in different areas of the balance sheet and earnings and asset quality versus your peer group, and you see how it changes over time. Lots of different ways that we can visualize your absolute and relative performance. We can dig into liquidity metrics, provide liquidity snapshots and detailed liquidity calculations, concentration reports, asset quality, a performance analysis from using the OCC's old CAMELS framework, yields and costs, deposit profiles, securities, just a plethora of different tools and analyses. And we're currently working on which ones of these would be most relevant to our credit union customers, and which ones you're not getting right now or you'd love to have in your arsenal. So this is where we're eliciting explicitly requesting for you guys to reach out to us. If you would like a snapshot of all these different analyses for a sample community bank, for example, and say, I want to look at these and circle the 7 or 8 that I think would be awesome for us to have in our credit union, we'd love to do that for you. So reach out. I'll shoot you a bunch of sample visualizations and analyses, and we'll start looking at how we can put those together and build out something more comprehensive for credit unions. So we're looking forward to offering industry trends in a dynamic way and these type of analyses going forward. Sean?
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. All right, I'm going to grab back the screen. So as Steve pointed out, right, we're continuing to try to make enhancements and improvements, bring more information to you to utilize in a number of different ways. So, appreciate it. Steve said, any comments or feedback or suggestions, ideas, things you'd like to see, we are very welcoming and interested in hearing that. At this time, if you have any final questions, go ahead and submit those. We'll take a look at them and answer them. Also, just a reminder, all this is available on the YouTube channels. Thank you. And coming up, we've got some, webinars. As always, in October, we'll have one where we credit union executives discuss current loan growth strategies. So certainly register for that. In November, Paul Allen, our dear friend from Saltmarsh, will join Steve and I for a coffee talk. Paul always does a great job. We always welcome his insights and information. So as with all of our webinars, please register, because if you do, you will get a copy and a link to the recording and a copy of the slides. So even if you can't attend, it is always worthwhile to register. So these are the next couple that are coming up. I don't see, let me see if I got any final questions here. Oh, thanks, David. Thanks, Tammy. I think I've got them. Oops, let's see. Would love a user group communities page where us users could connect, ask questions, add best practices, tips, feedback from examiners and auditors. That is a good idea, Monique. We will discuss that next week in our IT call. But that's a great idea. So thank you for submitting that. Please keep the ideas coming. Lynn, we will send out a link to the today's recording and the slides in an email, likely Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning. So we will get those out to you once they are available. Steve, any final words before we let everyone have their day?
No, I appreciate everyone allowing me to get kind of geek out a little bit over the data today, probably more so than I have in the past. All wish me luck. I'm traveling across North Carolina to the mountains this weekend to potentially, Sean, potentially pick up a new puppy for our family. So this, Lord help me, this may be the last time that y'all hear from me.
I'm going to go past potentially. It's hard to look at a puppy and not want it.
Yeah, every person I talk, everyone you talk to about getting a puppy keeps saying, oh, if it doesn't work out, you can always bring it back. There's a guarantee for like 2 weeks. I'm like, how many people get the puppy and then just like, this is just not working out for me. It's like, once you pick it up, you ain't going back.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be missing 2 legs and you're like, yeah, he'll be all right. He's kind of cute.
Yeah. I don't see you not coming home with a
Everyone's
new puppy.
jumping the gun, even in the comments.
That's right. That's
and
exciting.
It's a labradoodle. So I'm really I'm done for.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I have a grand dog labradoodle, so they're great. Thank you all very much for again making these coffee talks. What they are. Your attendance is what does it. So thank you. Hope to see you again next month. And we hope you have a great day and weekend. We'll see you in November.
Thanks, everybody.